Namaste and good morning, everyone. Let's do some prayers. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhurбhavасваha, Tatsavitra Varenyam, Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Dhiyo Yo Naha, Prachodayat, Asto Ma Sadgamya, Tamso Ma Jyotirgamya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamya. Om Sehna Bhunaktu, सवीर्यं कर्वावहे तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्वेषावहे ओम शांति 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 ओम. Let's open our books, Uddhava Gita. And if you remember, we are on chapter number 15, explanation of the Vedic path. And this is page number 460 and verse number 10. द्रवस्य शुद्धे अशुद्धि च द्रव्येन वचनेन च संस्कारेणाथ कालेन महत्व आपथा वा. An object's purity or impurity is established by contact with another object, by words, by rituals, by the effects of time, or according to its magnitude. So here purity and impurity is being explained. The purity of parts is attained by washing them with water, and they become impure when touched by urine or other abominable substances. The words of a saintly Brahman are pure, but the sound vibrations of a materialistic person is contaminated by lust and envy. After the birth of a child or the death of a family member, the next 10 days are considered to be impure. Water fetched by an outcast is considered to be pure if it is from a large lake filled with lotus flowers. However, if it is brought from a small pond or well, it is considered to be impure. Impure food in the mode of ignorance is certainly to be avoided, except in the case of a dire emergency. The consideration of an article's purity or impurity is determined by its proximity to other things. For example, articles touched by urine are considered to be impure, but if they are touched by Ganges water, they are considered to be pure. Although the conch shell is the bone of a dead animal, it is accepted as pure because the Vedas declare this as being a fact. Purity and impurity also depends on sanskar, indicating that the purity or impurity of a particular object is ascertained according to the regulations of ritualistic performance. For example, a flower to be offered to the deity must be purified with water. Flowers or food cannot be offered to the deity, however, if they have been contaminated by being smelled or tasted before the offering. Okay, we are all familiar with those rituals that we don't smell the flower and then offer it to God or even the prasad. Verse number 11. Shaktehat va buddhya samriddhya च यत आत्मने अघम कुर्वन्ते हि यथा देशावस्थानु सारतः. The contact of contaminated substances may or may not affect one with the sinful contamination, depending upon one's prowess, spiritual advancement, development of intelligence, or other such conditions. According to the laws of nature, that which is impure contaminates a particular person in accordance with that person's situation, as described here. For example, on certain occasions, such as a solar eclipse or just after childbirth, one must restrict the intake of food according to ritualistic injunctions. One who is physically weak, however, may eat without being considered impious. Ordinary persons consider the 10 days following childbirth to be most auspicious, whereas one who is learned knows that this period is actually impure. Worn, dirty clothing is considered impure for a rich man, but acceptable for one who's poor. The word desh indicates that in a safe and peaceful place, one is obligated to strictly perform religious rituals, whereas in a dangerous or chaotic situation, one may be excused for occasional negligence of secondary principles. One who is physically healthy must offer obeisance to the deities, attend religious functions and execute his prescribed duties. But a young child or sickly person may be excused from such activities, as indicated by the word avastha. Thus, the revealed scriptures teach that one should consider purity and impurity according to the place, time, person, and circumstance. The difference between purity and impurity, as well as piety and impiety, depends upon the place, circumstances, health of a person, and prosperity. One should accept everything which is favorable for the devotional service of Lord Krishna and reject whatever is unfavorable. One must learn the process of serving God from the bona fide spiritual master and thus always maintain one's existence pure and free from anxiety. In general, however, when considering the relative purity and impurity of material things, all of the above mentioned factors must be calculated. It can thus be concluded that the same conditions are perceived differently by swan-like personalities and those who are no better than dogs, hogs, camels, and asses. Verse number 12. धान्ये दार्व अस्ति तंतु नाम रस तेजस चर्म नाम काल वायव अग्निमृत तो ये पार्थिवा नाम युतायुते. Various objects such as grains, wooden utensils that are used for performing sacrifice, elephant tusks, liquid items such as oil and ghee, metals such as gold, leather and clay parts can all be purified by contact with the time, air, fire, earth, and water. The Lord herein explains in detail how various articles become pure by contact with certain elements. The word asti refers to elephant's tusk. The word ras in this verse refers to oil or ghee. The word tejas refers to gold and other metals. All these are considered to be pure according to Shastra when they are combined with water, fire, and other elements and used at a particular time. For example, a clay pitcher and bricks are considered pure, but when they are in their original form as earth, they are considered impure. Metals such as gold can be purified by clay, water, and fire. Raw silk is purified simply by contact with the air. Verse number 13. Amedhye liptam yad jain gandh lepam vyapohati bhajate prakritim tasye tach shaucham tavat ishyate. If a surface, a container, or cloth is contaminated by the touch of an abominable object, it can be purified by cleaning with caustic soda, acid, and water until the smell or dirt is completely removed. So if meat or any other abominable substance is kept on a surface, a cloth, or in a pot, then these can be purified by scrubbing and washing with acid, detergent, clay, and water. until the contamination is removed. One should cleanse a contaminated object until the bad odor or impure coating is removed, thereby restoring it to its original condition. Because cleanliness is important. So that's why he's mentioning the Vedic way of cleaning. If something is not clean, how do we clean it? So this is what Lord Krishna is telling us. Verse number 14. Sanan, dan, tapo, avastha, virya, sanskar, karambi, mat samrityaha cha atmanaha, shaucham, shuddha, karma chared, dvija. One can purify the self by bathing, giving charity, performing austerity, undergoing purificatory rituals, as well as by personal prowess, the performance of prescribed duties, and above all, remembrance of me. One who is twice born should purify himself before he engages in prescribed duties. So, Shauch. After explaining how various objects can be purified, the Lord now describes the means for purifying the self. One can purify himself by bathing, distributing charity, and by performing the activities that are prescribed for his various stages in life. The word sanskar means rituals such as the sacred thread ceremony and the chanting of the mantras. So sanskar, as Hindus, we have sola sanskar. So this is what he's talking about. It is necessary for the members of all varans to purify themselves before performing their prescribed duties. So ordinarily also, whenever we do puja, we wash our hands, we wash our face, wash our feet. The conditioned souls can purify themselves by bathing, giving charity, performing austerity, acting according to the rules and regulations prescribed for his situation with the Varnashram system, undergoing the 15 kinds of sanskara, and above all, by remembering the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, Vishnu. In this regard, one should carefully consider this verse from the Garuda Purana. So cleansing is not only the bodily cleansing, he's talking about the cleansing of the mind also. Cleansing of our antakaran. So whether one is pure or contaminated, and regardless of one's external situation, simply by remembering the lotus-eyed personality of Godhead, one can internally and externally cleanse one's existence. So water cleanses us, air cleanses us, fire cleanses us, but the most important is the name of God. That's what he's mentioning. Remembering God, we clean ourselves. Number 15. Mantrasya cha parigyanam karam shuddhir mad arpanam dharma sampadhyate shadibhar adharmastu vipriya. A mantra is purified when it is heard from the mouth of a bona fide spiritual master. That means a guru. That's why they say when Guru gives us the mantra, that is a live mantra. One's activities are purified by offering the results to me. Purified place, time, ingredients, performer, mantras, and actions constitute religion. And negligence of these 6 constitutes irreligion. The purification of a mantra is being described in this verse. When mantras are received from the mouth of a bona fide spiritual master, they are considered purified. One's activities are purified when the results are offered in the service of the Supreme Lord. Purification of the place, time, ingredients, performer, mantras, and action constitutes religion, and a failure to so purify constitutes irreligion. That means it's opposite of that. The purification of the place, time, ingredients, performer, mantra, and action constitutes religion, and the negligence of such purification is considered irreligion. If one does not receive a mantra from a bona fide spiritual master who exhibits purified behavior, then he falls into a state of inauspiciousness because a mantra is no better than poison when it is received from a so-called spiritual master who is actually a disciple of Kali. When actions are performed for one's own sake or for the sake of one's family or community, they are considered to be impure. So that means when the selfishness is there. Whenever an action, time, place, and so on are not in relation to the Supreme Lord, they must be considered impure and irreligious. Verse number 16. Kvachit guno api doshaha syad dosho api vidhina guna gun desharth niyamastad vidam eva badhyate. Sometimes what seems to be piety is actually sin, and sometimes what normally is sinful is to be considered as pious. Because of this, it seems that there is no clear distinction between piety and sin. Here it is explained that piety and sin are actually relative conceptions. If a man abandons his wife and children, he must certainly be considered the rascal number one. Still, when a man gives up his family to accept the renounced order of life, sannyas, he is offered the respect due a greater soul. It must therefore be concluded that piety and sin depend upon circumstances and are therefore not easily ascertained. Human beings are considered to be capable of distinguishing between good and bad, and are thus responsible for their pious and sinful activities. Animals, on the other hand, being merged in ignorance, cannot be blamed for their offenses, which arise from ignorance. Human beings who act like animals, with the idea that one should not feel any guilt but should do whatever he likes, will certainly take birth as animals absorbed in ignorance. Because our future depends upon our current actions. So if our actions are animalistic, sure, we'll take the form of an animal. This is a karmic law, not just a theory, it's a law of karma. Verse number 17. Saman karam acharnam patitanam napatakam और पति कहो गुनाह संग नश्याना patate adha. Activities that would degrade an elevated person do not cause a fall down for those who are already fallen. Indeed, one who is lying on the ground cannot possibly fall any further. The material association that is dictated by one's own nature is considered a good quality. For example, association with a woman is a fault for a person in the renounced order of life, but it is a good quality for a householder. For an elevated person, drinking wine would be the cause of his degradation, but an ordinary laborer who could moderate his drinking would be considered pious. From this example, we can understand that on the material platform, piety and sin are relative. Another example is that if a sannyasi intimately associates with a woman, he would be considered most abominable, whereas that same association for a householder is considered pious. The conclusion is that piety and sin on the material level are relative considerations. So that's why it's very important for us to have the clarity. And clarity comes with the knowledge. And knowledge seeps in when we are calm. For one who is full of faults, his actions cannot be the cause of his degradation because they are natural for him. One who's lying on the floor cannot go any lower. The possibility of falling down looms large for those who are elevated, but not for those who are already fallen. The nature of a talented person is never considered to be faulty because transcendentalists know that sense enjoyers and dry renunciates are fallen. They are careful to avoid their association or imitate their behavior. Verse number 18. Yato yato nirvatet vimuchyet tamastata tatastata eshaha dharmo nrinam kshemaha shok moh bhayapaha. The more one distances himself from sinful or materialistic activities, the more he is freed from their bondage. Such renunciation is the basis of religion and drives away all kinds of lamentation, illusion, and fear. So the aim of the scriptures is to encourage renunciation by means of a gradual diminishing of the enjoying propensity. Because we think that we can enjoy running towards the matter. But religion teaches us, hey, have a little detachment also. Because the real source, eternal source of enjoyment or the bliss or the happiness is not the matter. Okay? It's the soul and God. This is done by prescribing rules and regulations that govern all aspects of human behavior. So that's why codes of conduct are given in the scriptures. The conception, I am the enjoyer of this temporary, perishable material world, creates lamentation, illusion, and fear in the minds of the conditioned souls. People who renounce sense gratification and dry renunciation and engage in the worship of the Supreme Lord bring about their own auspiciousness. In this regard, one should carefully consider this verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Renunciation is the basic principle sustaining the lives of Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's devotees. Seeing this renunciation, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is extremely satisfied. Verse number 19. Vishyeshu gunadhyasat punsaha sanghas tato bhavet sanghat tatra bhavet kama kamad ev kalir nrinam. When one is attracted to the objects of the senses, attachment for them certainly develops within his heart. This attachment gives rise to lust, and from lust, anger and violence are generated. We learned about this in Bhagavad Gita also. In these 4 verses, the Supreme Lord is demonstrating the uselessness of the path of enjoyment. That is like a bhog. Although it is sometimes encouraged in the Vedas, desire is the cause of attachment. And from attachment, lust develops. A lusty person is easily angered and becomes inimical to anyone, frustrating his lusty desires. You want something and there's another person, either that person gets it or doesn't let you get it, you get angry. For this reason, there is constant strife within human society. That is the real cause of human strife. Verse number 20. Kaler durvishaha krodhas tamastam anuvartate tamasagrasya se punsansh chetna vyapane drutama. From quarrel arises unbearable anger. From anger, bewilderment is produced. And from bewilderment, one quickly loses his power of discrimination. Power of discrimination is viveka. We don't know what's right, what's wrong, what is temporary, what is permanent. From conflict of interest comes anger, followed by tam or an illusion. Due to illusion, one becomes bewildered, and this causes one to become completely bereft of any sense of discrimination. No vivek. From the tendency to enjoy material objects, considering them to be separate from the Supreme Lord, one develops attachment. From attachment, lust is born, and from lust, a conflict of interest arises. When there is a conflict of interest, strong anger results, and from this unbridled anger, one is covered by the dense darkness of ignorance, which robs one of the power of discrimination. So, darkness of ignorance. Verse number 21. Taya virhitaha sadho jantu shunyaya kalpate tatho se swarth vibhransho murchitasya mritasya cha. O saintly Uddhava, a person who has lost his power of discrimination is as good as a dead matter. As a result of his ignorance, he loses the opportunity to achieve life's ultimate goal. Because his buddhi, even the buddhi is gone, Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita also says, a person is gone. An unconscious person loses all sense of what is to be done and what is not to be done. Such a person is considered to be as good as dead because he has lost all sense of life's ultimate goal. When one becomes bereft of the power of discrimination, he loses his good consciousness, almost like a dead man, and falls down from understanding life's ultimate goal. So that's why the Gurus always tell us, never forget the ultimate goal. Sometimes we just get lost into the temporary goals and we forget the ultimate goal. Ultimate goal should never be forgotten. And ultimate goal is what? To become one with God. That is ultimate goal. The Atma wants to join the Paramatma. That's the ultimate goal. Verse number 22. Vishyaha abhiniveshen na atmanam ved na param vriksha jivikyaha jivan vyartham pasrev yashvasana. One who uselessly passes his life by maintaining himself on whatever food he receives without personal endeavor is no better than a tree. Living uselessly in ignorance like a tree, his breathing is no better than that of a balloon. Such a person who is almost like a dead man has no understanding of himself or anyone else. So that means a person who doesn't use the intellect, the discrimination is no better than a tree, he says. First he said about that he's like an animal. See, animals are still, they have some instinct. They live a life according to the instinct. A tree is even lower than the animal. So he says, that kind of a person is like an animal. First and then a tree. One who lives like a tree without making any personal endeavor is considered to be practically unconscious. One whose breathing is therefore like that of a bellows is considered to be no better than a dead man. See, like a bellows just there's a in and out of the air, it's not life. And that's how this person is, who doesn't have any idea about the ultimate goal, who doesn't use the discrimination, the vivek. It's just like a breathing in and out, like a bellows. So breathing, but without any purpose. One who is devoid of Krishna consciousness uselessly breathes like a bellows and spoils his human birth by being absorbed in matter, just like a tree, without any enthusiasm for attaining life's ultimate goal. Beautiful analogy he is giving it to us and encouraging us that as a human being, we have a higher purpose. Remember that higher purpose. Move towards that higher purpose. Do the sadhana for that. Verse number 23. Fal shrutir iyam nrinam na shreyo rochanam param shreyo vivakshya proktam yatha bhashajye rochanam. The attainment of heavenly enjoyment as the result of pious activities is not the ultimate goal of life for human beings. attainment of heavenly enjoyment, that means Swarg. Swarg is not our ultimate goal. Just as a child is promised a sweet to create his desire for taking medicine, the promise of heavenly rewards that are described in the scriptures are there to create a desire for performing pious activities. Okay, so when we start walking on this path, sure, there are certain allurements have been told us that you will have this, you will have that. Okay, so just like a child. But we don't want to stay children. We want to grow up on this path of spirituality. It has been heard from the scriptures that materialistic people can go to heaven if they perform their pious activities. Therefore, how can they consider to be deviating from the ultimate goal of life? The answer is given in this verse. Such inducements to perform pious activities are not actually life's ultimate goal. The great sage Narad has said, destruction of distress and attainment of happiness is auspicious. This cannot be achieved by the performance of fruitive activities. By this statement, the ultimate auspiciousness of karma is refuted. Then what about statements found in the Vedic literature such as enjoy life with the damsels of heaven? The answer is that just to develop in the conditioned souls a taste for performing pious activities. And conditioned soul is a jivatmas. The Vedic literature sometimes offers inducements to gradually bring them to the path of liberation. This is like the inducement given to a child so that he will take some medicine. The father may tell him, if you drink this bitter juice of neem leaves, I will give you a laddu. Because of the inducement, the son will agree to drink the bitter medicine, and thus his disease will be cured. Of course, the gift of a laddu is not the actual fruit of drinking bitter neem juice. When fruitive workers hear about the tempting fruits of karma, they cannot resist the temptation. Actually, they are deceived by such flowery language of the Vedas because such fruitive work in and of itself cannot avoid one ultimate benefit. So we got to keep that in mind as a serious sadhana. Verse number 24. Ut pataiva hi kameshu praneshu swajaneshu cha asakt manasoho matyaha atmano anarth hetushu. Right from their birth, human beings naturally becomes attached to animalistic propensities. A long duration of life, sense gratification, bodily strength, personal influence, friends and family, all of which create unearths that defeat the real purpose of life. So all these bondages, they just bring us down. We forget our ultimate purpose. The worldly enjoyments, we just get tempted to the worldly enjoyments so easily. We got to see if there's a choice. See, all day long we have the choice. Do this or do that. Where do we automatically go? To the satsang or to the parties? Could be a dinner party, a lunch party, to a movie, to a concert, or to the satsang, or to the seva. What do we really do? Where do we go automatically? Because when we study like this, we want to, but then the company we keep can easily influence us the other way. That's why we got to be very careful. We got to see where we are going, what our goal is. Because on this path, we are the drivers. We are creating our destiny. Every karma we do each day, every action, every thought, every words, we are creating our own destiny. So the question may be raised in the Karam Kand sections of the Vedas. There is no mention of liberation from material existence. Therefore, by what authority can one state that liberation is the goal of karma? The answer is given herein. The primary purport of Vedas supports this statement. By nature, the conditioned souls are attached to material enjoyment since the moment of their birth. As a result, they become attached to their senses, strength, influence, wife, children, and other relatives. However, such attachment is simply anartha or unwanted and therefore produces only distress. It's always very easy going down. Going up is always, it takes effort. I lived in the mountains. We used to run down all the time. Going up, you have to breathe better. Sometimes you huff and puff when you walk up. The same thing happens with on the path of spirituality. Moving towards the material life, you slide down. But you forget the ultimate goal and you keep on moving away and away from the ultimate goal of life. That goal doesn't change. That goal is the same. Tomorrow I'll be talking about willpower. Because in order to really have this kind of a determination, you got to have a strong willpower. God has given us this willpower. It's all inside us. But do we use it? Or what do we use it for? Do we use it to go up or to go down? Let's look at one more verse, 25. Natan avidishu swartham brahmyataho vrijinadhvani katham yunjyat punas teshu tansatamo vishuto buddha. This is verse number 25. Those whose knowledge is covered by ignorance and are thus acting against their self-interest are wandering on the path of material existence. Why would the Vedas encourage them to enter deeper into darkness by engaging them in sense gratification? That is a question we need to ask too. Generally, materialistic people are ignorant of their real self-interest, the platform of ultimate happiness. Therefore, the Vedic literature does not actually encourage faithful persons to act in a way that will enable them to enjoy heavenly pleasure and thereafter be born in the lower species of life. If this were the actual intention of the Vedas, they could not be considered genuinely auspicious. How much effort these avatars or the gurus they make to bring us back on the right path. But still we just wander away. After reading, after listening, still we don't follow it. How sad. Verse number 26. Evam vyavasitam kechit vigyaye kubudhya phal shrutim kusmitam naved gya vadantihi. Without undertaking the actual intention of the Vedic literature, some evil-minded people, such as the Karam Mimansaks, who are bewildered by the statements promising heavenly rewards that are found in the Vedas, propagate that such flowery statements are the supreme objective of life. However, this is not the opinion of actual authorities, such as Vyasadeva, who know the real purport of the Vedas. So that means that sometimes we just draw our own conclusion wrongly because we don't understand the deep meaning of the Vedas. One may still question, why do the Mimansaks declare that the aim of the Vedas is to transfer the living entities to heaven? The answer is herein given. Such people, not realizing the real intention of the Vedas, accept the Vedic statements that promise heavenly elevation to be the actual purport of the Vedas. Actually, the flowery language of the Vedas have bewildered these people. Due to ignorance, they consider the flowers to be the fruit. As a result of being bewildered, their intelligence has become contaminated so that they are misguided. So that's why the Guru is very important in life, who can really open up the Vedic mantras, the injunctions for us, what the real meaning is. With our intellect, we really cannot understand. Such persons certainly do not know the actual purport of the Vedas. Great sages such as Vyasadeva, who are conversant with the actual purport of the Vedas, never preach in this way. So we'll start next week's class with the verse number 27. So let's do the Shanti part. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vishishyate. Om Shanti 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 Om. Thank you very much.